Hi, in the previous lesson, we discussed about understanding the law. And we touched on two foundations. The first foundation was to understand the internet, web browsers, and the web itself. We said that the web was an interconnected place and it was made from resources and documents, mostly online documents. And the documents could be HTML, could be CSS could be JavaScript, those formats. And we said they have resources. The resources will be the videos that are uploaded online, the let's say images, uh, database resources, PDFs, all of these things were resources that lived on the web. And the web is facilitated by the internet. The internet is like the road network that connects the user to the resources. So we said that the users use web browsers, okay? And we discussed about why we needed to understand that infrastructure was that we needed to have to know what the user goes through in order to get documents online. So when the user places a request from his browser, this request is routed to a DNS, and the DNS picks it up, looks for its IP, and the IP is searched online for the server that hosts that particular uh, resource. Once the resource is obtained, it's fetched, and the user's IP is located, and the documents are sent back to that IP. So we spoke about that in a previous lesson. If you haven't seen that lesson, I will encourage you to go and then take a look at that lesson. And the next lesson, we spoke about the website or your website. We spoke about various technologies that were available to be used and how they could be implemented. And we spoke about technologies such as web frameworks and how we can deploy them to make your work faster. We spoke about content management systems and how we can use them to create blogs and other things to make the developers work faster. We spoke about database technologies that were available. And we also spoke extensively about libraries. Okay. Today, we are going to dwell on a very important subject, which is the user. Okay. It's paramount to understand that um, as a developer, your career will depend a lot on the user. And when I say that, what I mean is that um, your clients are users, your business partners are users, um, people who are decision makers are users. So it's important to place them a priority. It's not just about writing code, but helping, having that mindset that users are in control of the systems. Um, so in your career, let's say as a developer or website designer, this is what is going to happen. You are going to be commissioned work from various people. And by that, I mean that, for example, you can get a call from a marketing manager who wants you to come and build a website for their company. That manager might have seen your work somewhere, might have used your work. If they are impressed with your work, then they call you. But if you haven't designed the work towards the user and the user is not impressed with your work, then you don't get a call from the manager in the first place. So doing work with the user in mind is very paramount, whether you work for a company, whether you always have users who use your website. So they have to be given the topmost priority. Okay. Today, let's discuss a few things about users. Um, I categorize users into three mainly. Those who are new users, call them English users. They are beginners. They may not be familiar with technology or a specific website, but with clear instructions, they will be able to find their way around. Intermediate users are like in between. They have experience. Um, and they understand the basic functionality of a website, but not the advanced features. They can't use that. Expert users are the tech-savvy individuals who can use every site very well. And for them, they value efficiency and customization because that's what gives them value. Since the needs of these categories vary, it's crucial to bear in mind that you need to make design decisions or development decisions towards the user. Okay. And you have to take them into consideration that, okay, well, when I develop this way, a novice user may not understand what I'm trying to communicate or what I'm trying to mean. If it's too complex, they can't use it. And if it's too customized, then I will have problems with the intermediate users as well. So depending on the spectrum of people you are looking at, you take these precautions. Now, it's important that what a user walks away with is his experience. Okay. So when they come to your website, when they engage your website, the the impressions they get about the website is the user's experience. Okay. And these impressions may be good, these impressions may be bad. If it's bad, not a good thing because they wouldn't repeat that experience. Humans naturally wouldn't repeat a bad experience. If it's good, then they are likely to come over again and then repeat that experience. So it's important to understand that at the end of the day, as you build for the web, your files are going to live on a server somewhere, but your users can come from anywhere in the world. And so you have to tailor your content to ensure that they meet those needs. So over here, I said that the user experience is about how a person feels when they use your website. Okay. If they feel happy, that's the user experience. They feel it's a lot of work, that's the user experience. Um, the developer therefore has to bear in mind that he's not only working to create a working website or a functional website, but also something that is easy to use and enjoyable to use. Okay. That is easy and enjoyable. They enjoy the experience where they come back again. And besides, it's easy to get around with. Okay. So we should bear in mind that for the user experience to be good, these four things have to come in place. Well, we have to um, put them as top priority. First, they have to be user friendly. When we say a website is user friendly, it means it's easy to navigate and enjoyable to use. When we say a website is functional, it means that it works as expected. When we say something works as expected, maybe you were expecting this button to open this page when you clicked it, but when you clicked it, it didn't do that. If it didn't do that, then your expectations were not met. It didn't work as expected. But if you clicked it and it opened that page for you, then it means that it works as expected. In that case, we say it's functional. So for a website to be functional, it means that the elements on that website, they function as intended. There is no line or there's no error of code that causes your website to break sometimes. And the third thing is it needs to be fast or it needs to load quickly. By fast, you see, it depends on two factors: the speed of the internet for the user and the size of your files. If the user has a slow connection and you have very huge files, they will sit back and watch your screen turn around for a long time because it wouldn't open. And what is going to happen is that you have to design with that in mind. So you have to optimize your files so that even with a very low internet connection, you will be able to succeed in loading very fast. The fourth thing is it has to be accessible. When we say something is accessible, it means that people of all categories, whether they have disabilities or non-disabilities, they can access it. Disabilities, disabled users, you find them online as well because you can have someone who is colorblind and he's trying to figure out some colors on the internet. You can have someone who has maybe a hearing impairment and is using your maybe videos online and you don't have subtitles. Okay, this person cannot hear. So if you don't have subtitles in your video, then it means that this person can't access the content you have created. And you can have someone who has a vision impairment, and that person might depend on sound. So there are things sometimes for accessibility. You create sound with your website, the elements with your website, so that they can be able to hear readings from the web page, or a screen reader will read to them what this particular section is about. So for your website to get the best of experience with the user, or the best of rating with the user, these main categories: one, it has to be user friendly; two, it has to be functional; three, it has to be fast; and four, it needs to be accessible. So let's talk about sites that are user friendly. Let's talk about websites that are user friendly and best practices that can help us make a site easy to use and enjoyable to use. Um, the first thing is we should use clear and consistent menus. A menu that is clear to identify on your website, where you have lists of items, not a button that is hidden somewhere that you have to click before it brings up the entire menu. It has to be clear and it has to be consistent across all the pages. Okay. Um, Implement breadcrumbs. By breadcrumbs, we mean this. For example, if let's say I go to Amazon, um, so if I move from one page to the other, when you have breadcrumbs implemented, I can find my way back easily. I can know where I am in your website. So let's say at Amazon, I go to maybe today's deals. I'm currently opening today's deals page. So on today's deals, you see it's highlighted. It tells me where I am. That place is more bolder compared to the other places. Um, the outlets. Okay. The outlet too tells me where I am. So that place is bolder. So the outlets is still under today's deals, real estate things. Um, by breadcrumbs, we try to help the user at any point in time know where they are in the website. Let's say somewhere Wikipedia. Let's go to Wikipedia and then try this. Um, so um so on my main page, So let's see if I search for something. Hopefully, and it has a very clearly um, listed menu. So I can see it very easily. I can see the content and when I the sub menus too, they show where things are hidden easily. And so with these breadcrumbs that we are talking about, sometimes you can see something written in this form that maybe you have home and you have uh, people and you have Kofi and it shows me that, well, I'm at the home page. I first got to the home page and then I moved to people. And under the people, I then moved to the person Kofi Annan. So at any point, if I click people, it will bring me back to the list of people. That's what we mean by implementing breadcrumbs. So that at any point in time, the user is able to tell where they find themselves. And design intuitive navigation flows. What happens is that you need to plan your menu before you start building your site. Okay, you need to plan your menu before you start building your site. So if let's say you have a meeting with the marketing manager and say, okay, well, we want our website to fulfill this particular purpose or to fulfill this particular task. What you have to do is you have to break the tasks down into pages. Okay, so that each page fulfills a task. And then each page will develop a menu. Okay, so you need to have your menu structure before you start building. Okay, based on the purpose of the website or the functions of the website. And so the other thing is use descriptive labels for buttons and links. So, for example, you can have a button that says contact us. Don't use click here. Okay, it doesn't represent what the button does. Okay, so it has to be descriptive. The labels you use there have to be descriptive. For your links, if it's Kofi Annan, just write Kofi Annan. If it's don't write maybe person one, person two, person three. It doesn't describe. It's not a label that describes it very well. And also, he says that best practice that include a search bar for a quick access to the content. So if you have a search bar, it makes it easier to navigate your page. So as you can see, Wikipedia has a search bar here. Anything I want to access, let's say now I decide, okay, well, I want to access, apart from Mahatma Gandhi, I want to access him. So once I search, then it brings it. Then I'm able to go to that particular page and know more about Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. Um, so these are basically best practice that makes your website user friendly. User friendly. It doesn't cause your user to have a hard time looking for what he wants to find. It makes it easy. Search around. The first thing is your menus. Make sure your menus are consistent and if you implement breadcrumbs, like I said, it helps the user to always navigate where they are. And if they want to go back, it makes it easier. And include a search bar. A search bar will help the user like easily comes to easily find things that comes to mind. So if he's navigating your website and then he feels, oh, I need to um, look for this particular content, you can just go into your search bar and then quickly access that. Then you also have to design intuitive navigation flows. So by that, we mean that plan your navigation very well. based on the functions of your website, what you want the website to do, or the purpose you want the website to fulfill. Then we have some examples like when it comes to menu, they use a mega menu with a categorized drop down and a prominent search bar. So let's look at Amazon again. What we mean by categorize, when you have a lot of menu items, it's good to sometimes categorize it so that, so when I come here, when I come to all, so you see, all electronics, I can have the sub menus in electronics pop up here. I can go back to the main menu and say computers. Then I can have the sub menu of computers here. I can have so CO is also more. All of these things are categories, and these are subcategories. When I come here, they are subcategories. So when I click on docs, I will still see much more categories there. So under docs, we have today's deals, we have the registry, we have the customer service, we have get card, we have sell. All of these things are sub. So let's look at dogs. There are subcategories here: food, dog treats, dog apparel, dog that, dog that. So all of these things are subcategories. So there are categories, there are main categories. So this may be an implementation of pet supplies to. This is an implementation of if we don't say, we can say something like more similar to breadcrumbs, which helps the person always know where they are in your page. Let me try and then close up some of my pages. All right. So let's continue with our talk. Let's look at some of the tools that make websites, can make your websites user friendly or friendly to navigate. Remember that you don't have to know all of these tools, but these are popular available tools. So you can pick one of them and then do a good work by searching out what they really do, what they really do, and then you can pick it up from there. Okay. You can pick it up from there. Um, okay, so let's take a look at some of the tools that make our websites very user friendly. One of them is Balsamiq. One of them is Balsamiq, and we have Hotjar, we have Figma, and we have Crazy. All of these tools can make your website. So Balsamiq is for creating wireframes that plan the navigation of your website. When you talk about wireframes, it's like the blueprint of your website. When you are trying to build a website from scratch, you design it on paper and then say, okay, my menu should be here, my banner, homepage banner should be there, my that, and we usually call these things wireframes. And you can use that to plan the navigation of your website structures, which makes it very easy. And Hotjar is also an example of a tool that can analyze user behavior and identify the challenges that users have with your navigation. Okay. And with Figma, um, it's for doing a couple of things. It's a collaborative design tool for creating and testing navigation prototypes. But we'll get to know more about these as time goes on. And Crazy Egg also provides heat maps and scroll maps to analyze how users navigate your site. So the heat map is more like it tells you where the users spend a lot of time, where they don't spend a lot of time using heat diagrams. Okay. So let's look at an example of, let's say, the Balsamiq. So The wireframe is focused on. I just wanted to have a feel of what the website does. The wireframe, it's for wireframing, but it helps that will help with the navigation as well. So you can see like an example of how a wireframe looks like. So this is not the actual website, but it just gives you like a plan. This is more like a plan on how you will build things in the future. An example of Twitter's or today it's called X wireframe. Okay, how we do. So this is not the actual thing, but it's like a plan of how we intend the site to look like or to run. Okay, and you can use this for wireframing, and it has. You see, most of these websites have introduction videos that help you to use that too. Better still, you when you come to maybe Google and then you just type how to use balsamic. Okay, how to use balsamic. See, there are videos that pop up on how to use that um, the wireframe, the beginner-friendly tutorial. If that will take you through. I wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel to teach you on how to use each tool. But when we make mention of a tool here, what you can do is that you can come to Google and then search for how to use that tool. And it will give you a step-by-step approach on how to deploy that tool in your projects to make your website easily navigable, okay, and make it very user-friendly. So that's one thing you have to understand over here, that our purpose is not to go through each tools one after the other because we'll be talking about a lot of tools. And the truth is, you might not use all these tools at a time. You may use only one or at most two at a time. Um, and that is what's important to mention because if you pick a tool, then take your time and do some reading around it, take your time and watch videos, and you'll be able to understand how to use that tool and master that tool to your advantage. So that is how it works. Okay, so there is balsamic, there is Hotjar. Let's take a look at Hotjar. Okay, so heat maps, website heat maps. When I say heat maps, it's just like what I was talking about. I use heat maps to tell you where users spend their time on. So everything you needed to know. So let's look at an example of a heat map. Okay. See a heat map. You see where it's going to. It's telling you. It's there from red to green to blue. It's telling you that the red is where people will spend most of their time, and it's not because when the whole page opens, that is where. So going all the way down. And recordings can also help you. It can record how users are using your website. Okay, where they go to, where they go to next, where they click, and demo websites. Okay, and the feedback surveys can also develop feedback for you. Okay, interviews. So these are like demonstrations of how Hotjar works. Okay, can use them for interviews as well. Um, so that is one way of using Hotjar. But if I want to know more about using the Hotjar, all I need to do is to come to Google and then say how to use Hot Hotjar, and then it will give me a list of sometimes videos. Okay, complete tutorial Hotjar. So one of the ways is that you can identify the logo here. That is why in the in our tutorials, I try to include the video so that you don't just hear any Hotjar and then follow, but the identity will help you. Okay, so you can see Hotjar means it's about Hotjar. That is about Ocha. So you can learn a lot just by using the internet. Um, Pick a tool and then know which one works for you. And then there'll be more. And the truth is, more popular tools have more videos. Okay. So Balsamic has a lot of videos. Hotjar has Figma too has a lot of videos. Let's go to Figma. Um, I'm giving us the opportunity to look at more examples when it comes to user-friendly websites because so Figma, so you can see the logo here, and it helps you always get to the right website. Um, so we are going to figma.com. They think bigger, build faster. I think it's still loading. Um, so it's a collaborative tool, like we said, that is used by collaborative. I mean, on a website development project, you can be three people working on it, and it allows to create a platform where several of you can work on the same thing at the same time. That's what we mean a collaborative project or a collaborative tool. Um, so let's look at so that's about Figma. And same thing, if you need to learn more about Figma, you can just type in Google how to use Figma and it's Crazy Earth also does the heat map thing. Okay, the heat map helps you really to understand where your users are spending a lot of time so that you can invest more energy there. So if they are spending on when they come to your homepage and you are spending a lot of time on your let's say about page, then you know that okay, well, there's something they need at about page. You have to take more look because if you are able to do that, then that helps you to kind of know the pain points where your customers, what your customers need most, and where you have to invest most of your time, so that you don't have to invest all your time across not knowing, but you invest technically. So that example of heat maps, let's take an example of heat maps, how they look like, and you can have recordings as well. So heat maps, recordings, it's able to record this, like we saw in the other one, tell what your users are doing, where they go from one, and also give you service and errors, A/B testing. And A/B testing is very important for marketing purposes, marketing or data marketing purposes, because sometimes you want to know which um, sites or which products the users will prefer. And you wouldn't know that unless you test. And when you test, then you use the data for analytics, and then you make a decision on it. And it can give you your traffic analysis, where on the internet, when we say traffic, it talks about where your users are coming from and the numbers in which your users come in. CTAs, uh, call to action to CTA, call to action. When we say you are calling someone to action, that means that after you've proposed something, you want to invite them to take an action or to uh, act on your proposal. So if you say, okay, we're a website, we are into building construction, we are into painting, then when they are coming to the end, you want them to book you, or you want them to come to you, or you want them to act on something. That's what we mean by call to action. And it could be a button. It could be a simple button that says book us. It could be a button that says call us. That's the purpose, the whole purpose of your proposal on the website, and you telling them about yourself, and you at the end of the day you want them to act. So they can measure your CTAs. The CTA down here is like your call to action. Okay, and it can also integrate your goal. So Crazy Egg is similar to The two we spoke about earlier, here, we spoke about Hotjar and Balsamic too. And spoke about Figma. So these are popular tools that helps in your navigation, makes your site very easy and enjoyable to use. The second thing is your site needs to be functional if you want your users to enjoy their experience. By functionality, I mean it has to work as expected. Now, if I go to a button, it has to do what the button is saying. If I say contact us and I click the button, it doesn't lead me to the contact us page, or it leads me to a page, but it doesn't have your contact information. Then it is not functional. It's not working as expected. Uh, and these things can be two things: errors, coding errors, or maybe errors uh, on the server side of something. So you have to ensure that you test to achieve that. You have to test all links. After you are done with your website, test the link. Make sure that your links are leading to the places you intend them to. So you test the link, you test the buttons and the forms to ensure that they function correctly. If you say submit, does it submit the data right, or does it lead to another page, or whatever your expectations are? You have to make sure that they are met, and use consistent design patterns. Consistent design pattern. Your buttons should look clickable and behave as expected. By clickable, I mean if you hover right, sometimes you should get some feedback that maybe it has changed color or it has that is for a button. Okay. So if you use maybe anything in a box, if you write a text in a box and the user hovers over it and it doesn't change color, they know that, okay, well, if they were a button, it would have changed color. But since it's not a button, that's why it hasn't changed color. So you have to use consistent design patterns throughout your website. Okay. Not only on one page and differently on another page and another style on another page. Throughout your website, they have to be consistent. And you have to implement error handling and validation to show helpful error messages. For example, I am typing an email address and I forgot to bring at. The form should be able to handle that error and then show me that, okay, well, you've an email address should have at in it. Okay, so that information is helpful for the user. And um, and that's what we mean by validation. Validation is making sure that the data the user is giving you works or is correct. Okay, it's correct. So let's say, or it's not false. Let's say you ask for first name and they are giving you email address. You know that a name can't contain at. A name can't contain full stops. Okay, so you have to flag an error. If let's say you ask for an email address and they are giving you numbers, you know that, okay, well, there should be an at somewhere. There should be a .com or a .co or uh, domain ending somewhere. So some of these things, you validate the data before it is pushed to your database. So usually we do that front end. We use front end validation so that your data is validated on the client side. If it's correct, then it passes. It passes to your server or to your database. If it's not correct, then it stays on your front end. And you also have to ensure cross-browser and cross-device compatibility. What we mean by cross-browser compatibility is that, you know, there are several browsers the users can choose from. They can choose to use Opera, Firefox, what do I say? Chrome, Safari. They can choose from any browser they wish. However, that browser should have enough updates to catch up with the developments that are going on in the web. Every day there are new inventions, there are new developments, there are new technologies being implemented on the web. And browsers which are constantly updating their engine are able to interpret those results better. But some browsers have been obsolete or they don't have enough resources or enough people on their team to even do that. So to catch up with the trending changes.
So what happens is you can have a very new, cool element stuff. You do your design. It works in maybe Chrome or it works in a very modern browser, Firefox, and some other browsers are not able to interpret it very well. You will never know if your user is using that particular browser that doesn't interpret it very well. So when the user loads it, it will break at its end and they will have a bad experience. You'll be out, this site doesn't work as expected. When actually it worked at your end. So you have to ensure that the implementations you are making are cross-browser compatible. And cross-device compatibility is it works on various devices. Okay, whether it's an iPhone, whether it's an Android phone, whether it's a tablet, whether it works across phones. So good examples that are functional are Google Forms because they provide real-time validation and clear error messages. Okay, when you are using them. So for Google Forms, let me say uh, forms dot Google. So okay, you can ask me to start a new form because already I've created some forms. So these are forms I mentorship requests, career pathway program, specialization program. So these are forms I've created. I created this for a mentorship request. That sometimes I get feed for people who want to who need mentorship in the areas of software engineering, in the areas of front end development, back end data analysis, database. So what's your motivation for applying for this program? Personal. So that gets collected in a database, which I can go in there and then see who needs help and maybe schedule them for the year and assist them. So that's an example of Google Forms, and it gives you very clear error messages when you need them. Okay. And Netflix, let's look at Netflix. Probably most of you have visited the site on Netflix. Mm. They say that the buttons and the links work consistently across all devices. Um, so trending now, Revelation, Baby Farm. These are movies. Uh, so let's see. Get started. If I enter, it says enter your email to create a restart. Okay. Means I haven't entered any email. So you can see right there that let me go to the page and then we see where it was initially. So ready to uh, I click. It says enter your email to restart your membership. Means I haven't entered any email. Ready to watch, enter your email to create any membership. So email address. If I don't, that's a form of font. If I haven't entered anything, if I entered this, let's say, you see, please enter an email address. This is not an email address. This is an example of the validation I was talking about. In front and validating, making sure that it works as it should, it's functional. By functional, if it sends this to the database address, then it means that it's not functional. It's not working as expected. I expect it to pick my email address, not to pick anything that I give to it. Okay. And let's look at some of the popular tools that are used for um, ensuring that websites are functional. Okay, so to ensure that the websites are functional, these are some of the popular tools: Selenium, Browser Stack, Jest, and Cypress. Okay, these four tools can ensure that your website work as expected. Let's visit one of them, like Selenium. Selenium website. So we see the logo, Selenium. Okay, so he says that for Selenium automates browsers. That is it. Okay, it helps browsers to do certain functionalities. Okay, so there's a Selenium WebDriver, there's Selenium IDE. IDE is like an integrated development environment. There's Selenium Grid. And they say partners are these people, Browser Stack and Source Labs. All of these things are, and then you can simply come to Google and then say how to use Selenium website, something for testing. Okay. So Selenium in 15 minutes. Wow. So once we click on it, it can teach us on how to get lessons on Selenium. But that's not our purpose here. Our purpose is to introduce some of these tools so that depending on your preference, depending on what you want to do, you can just take the next steps. And then there is also Browser Stack. Okay. So Browser Stack is here. App and testing made very easy. The things you can do, automate, Perky, accessibility testing. We'll come to all of that. Okay. And when you need to, you just have to say how to use that. Okay. And Jest is also an example. Jest is an example of a type. When we say a JavaScript testing framework, we spoke about frameworks. Okay. Frameworks makes your work easier. Okay. And Cypress is an end-to-end testing tool that ensures. So we can also visit the website for Cypress. Website to all right. So you see the logo Cypress. So you can install, test, automate, and accelerate. You can install, and then these are, let's say, some code which we haven't gotten yet, but we are told that it's a JavaScript framework. Okay, right from the beginning, it said here testing frameworks for JavaScript. You can rewrite, run, and debug JavaScript. If you have a framework that you want to test. So this is an example. Okay, and we'll get introduced to more tools. But like I said, the purpose is not to cram all the tools or to know all of these tools offhand, but to understand which one works for you, and then you can navigate your way around and you can use them. Okay. So you can pick one of them and then use it effectively. Okay, so now let's discuss ways in which we can make our websites very fast. It's important for files to load fast because sometimes the user may have a low internet connection speed and you still need to deliver your files to get the best experience on the table. So this is what happens. Let's say the user has moved to a remote area where there isn't that much of an internet speed. Okay. And they still need to access your website. And if your files, your images, your videos, your resources on the website are not optimized, then that becomes a problem because it takes a very long time for them to load. And to some of the best practices that you should do is first thing is optimize your images and videos into formats that easily download or that are very low in kilobytes, or if not kilobytes, you still have some low levels of megabytes. For video files, then they have to optimize into formats that run quickly, like MP4 formats. And for images, you can get them into
WebP format. One of the things you can adapt is to use for videos is to adopt maybe video streaming technology site. So let's say YouTube or Vimeo allows you to host your videos there because they have technologies that optimize your videos for streaming. It makes it easier for you to stream through your website. So you can have it uploaded there and then using a link, you integrate a link into your website and you have your users play the video not from your server, but from YouTube server. That saves you cost and space in terms of storage space. And also you benefit from their streaming technologies. However, the other side is that you have to be aware of maybe the policies that are involved in ownership. So if it's not something that requires total copyright, then you can use that technology. But it's something that you feel you can't share the license with a third party or another person, then you have to post them on your server. So that's about it. You have to optimize your files and images into formats that easily load or are easily transmittable on the internet. The second thing is minify your JavaScript, your CSS, your document files to reduce the size. When we talk about minifying files, what happens is you pass them through we call some online tools minifiers. Now, what these minifiers do is that they help you create smaller versions of the file you intended to create. So it's helpful. It's helpful. So what happens is you can pass your code through a minifier and create smaller versions of the file. I just want to demonstrate an example. Let's say we're on a site called, let's say, CNN. We'll go to CNN's website. Latest news, videos. I just want us to use this for a demo. Okay. So it's loading. All right, so the CNN website has finished loading. What we can do is I want us to just go fetch the page source. Okay, so the page source will display the code that is displayed that way. So we have a lot of I can copy the entire thing. Then I copy it. So now it's copied. Now what I can do is that I can go into a minifier and then it helps me to reduce the number of lines we have in the code. So I can go to a minifier, minifier.org. That's an example of a minifier. It says minify CSS. So this is a language CSS on JavaScript. Or I want to minify HTML code. So let me go to HTML minifier here. So I place my code in here. So how many lines? I wish we could get a number of lines that I don't. So you see, all of these things are white spaces. White spaces. So the white spaces we have in here, they are going to be all minified. They are going to be because the thing is, white spaces, even though they add up to the size of the file, they don't have any use for the browser over here. Okay. And we'll get to understand. So let me hit minify and see what goes on. If it's going to get it right.
So I think it's minified. Now you can see that we have a more compact code. So you can see that we have more compact code. Now there are no white spaces. All the white spaces that used to exist have been filled. So this is a demonstration of how minifying works. So now we have code top to bottom. This reduces the number of lines of code and hence the size of the file. So if maybe the original file size was, let's say, 50 kilobytes, we can have it coming to like sometimes even 5 kilobytes after you have minified the code. Okay. So that's how helpful minify becomes. So you can do that for CSS file, JavaScript file, HTML files, as we saw earlier. This is for HTML, right? The earlier one, JavaScript, CSS. So we can select this for JavaScript and then upload a file. Then minifies us and give us the result product or the final product output. So that's one way we can optimize the file size. That reduces the file size so that it's easily transmissible on the internet, and we save the user internet data. The third thing is the use of content delivery system. So a content delivery system, how it works is that, okay, so maybe let's say you have a resource, a common resource that all your web page is going to need. Maybe it's a JavaScript library, okay, and your file sits on a server in US. And maybe your customers are in Europe, some are in Australia, some are further away from you. What happens is that if you use the services of a content delivery network, a CDN, they can host that file for you, and they have servers all over the world, such that anywhere where your customers are, they have a server nearby that will help them access that file faster. So even though you hosted it on a CDN service, they are globally spread, that at every point in time they are closer to your customer and they can serve the files faster compared to you who sits in the US and you have to deliver to Europe, you have to deliver to Australia, have to deliver various distances. And when we say distances, the IP is made from the web is made up of the internet, and the internet data is transmitted through routers, switches. The network system that forms the internet is infrastructure. So sometimes data has to go to one point and come back from another point, and the distances involved is what we are talking about. The longer the distance, the more time it takes for the request of your users to come back to you. Okay, so if you are using the service of a CDN, then that makes it shorter for you, such that at any point in time, instead of your users directly requesting from your server, which is maybe some distance away from them, they can get a nearby server owned by the CDN that's or which is on the CDN that can serve them faster. So that's how we use the CDN. And then implement lazy loading for images and videos. They load only when it's visible on the screen. So if you have if the user hasn't gotten to that section of the page, the image wouldn't load. Okay, so this is because if you can halt the images from loading, then you can get that internet resource to do something else. Okay, and one example of a website, that's common website that does that is YouTube. It uses lazy load for the thumbnails and the videos. So let's go to maybe YouTube site and experience it. YouTube.com. So it's currently opening my YouTube. And this is what happens. You see, thumbnails have loaded, even though the images are not yet in. You have some graphics loading to hold your suspense that, oh, something is coming. That's one way. And you have videos loading. Now, if I run very quickly, see nothing has loaded. Nothing has loaded yet, even though the page was loading. But when I get to that point, it will start loading. If I don't get to that point, it doesn't load. Okay, so there are videos that are beneath me as we speak, even though this side has loaded. If I get to that point before it kicks in or the loading kicks in, that's what we call lazy loading. Okay, lazy loading is the JavaScript library that helps you do that. And what we have is it loads the thumbnails, the images to the videos. The videos themselves are in the background. If I click on it, that is when the video themselves start loading. Okay. So that's an implementation of lazy loading by YouTube. And it's these are some of the best practices that can help you um, make sure that your internet is faster. Okay. And then another example is browser caching. Okay. So browser caching allows you to reduce your load times. Um, Let me explain browser caching in a bit. So browsers now have been designed with their own ability to remember resources that you accessed. Okay, so they kind of every resource you load, they kind of take a shot of it and then they remember it so that the next time you go to that website, they don't have to reload that resource again. So if you went to this website and maybe it gave you some images, it gave you some thumbnails, he knows that the next time you go there, it has to fetch those things again. So it remembers them and places them in a cache. That's more like the browser storage space, a small space where it places them in a memory, such that when you go there again, if the cache hasn't been deleted, it wouldn't have to do that whole process of re-downloading again. That saves the user data. So if you enable caching, it reduces the load times. Okay. When caching is, it always remembers and it reduces the load time. Let me demonstrate this for you. Let's say there's a website we like, and we can get to inspect what is going on in the background. I'll demonstrate this for you. The network. So when we go to the network, in the meantime, it looks like nothing is happening. But when I go to a particular site, like let's say, which site should I go to? Maybe W3 schools, where we can learn a lot of tutorials.com. Let's see what happens in the background. So it's getting the files from the W3 school website. Okay. So first, P01 gets 200, status 200, 200, 200, 40 requests. So it placed 40 requests in all. Okay. And 200 and below here, when we go down there, below there, you have 2.63 megabytes. And out of that, this one was transferred, almost 1 megabyte was transferred. It finished loading everything from the page in 11 seconds. Okay. So this is so these are all the files, right? If I come to image files, I can see there are some images that have been loaded. So this is an example of what is happening in the background. No, there's an image of a snow that has been loaded. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the website and see if it has some snow in here. A lot going on. So things get loaded and they get displayed on our website finally. So maybe that's the image of
And this is the image we see, nature. Okay, so that's the image. It was also loaded in the DOM. So when we come to our website, we see this image here, example, code for snapshot, and we see this image thing too, example. So all of these things have been loaded. Okay. Why I wanted to demonstrate is that now you see, all of these images have been loaded. Okay. When I say get me the files for the W3 schools again, let's go and see. You see that these files have been grayed out. Okay. These files, it only, even though it's fetched that website, they were grayed out because they are already existing in the browser's cache. So you can see over here, cache, 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 cache. The browser didn't have to go and fetch them again. They have been now stored in the browser's temporal memory. Okay. So that's the caching technology. And most browsers today have it. It allows you to hold items. And when we go to all items, let's look at what was cached. A lot of items were cached. Only the home page, the HTML thing, the HTML code was re-downloaded, which is like 50. But look at this. The style sheet was cached. The font was cached. Almost scripts, style sheets, font, scripts, almost everything was cached so that the browser doesn't have to re-download any document. And this kind of helps your website save in terms of the speed. So if the browser doesn't have to re-download them, it's remembering them. It doesn't have to let the user keep waiting. It just displays them. Okay. So that's one way we can increase the speed or make our website load faster. Okay. And examples are the YouTube. The lazy loading is what I demonstrated using lazy loading. Lazy loading is, I told you, is a JavaScript library that you can adopt. And it's Medium also optimizes and uses a CDN. A CDN, like I said, the content delivery network for things to be. So wherever you are, there is a nearby server that is able to serve you faster. Okay. Now let's look at the popular tools that can help us measure the speed and help us get faster websites. So there is Google PageSpeed Insights, there is Cloudflare, there is GTmetrix, and there is Google Lighthouse. Now, I told you earlier that, you see, the thing is, you can just choose one tool and learn how to work with it. Okay, instead of doing several tools at the same time. So let's demonstrate how to use a single tool. Okay, let's say we come to this side and we type okay. So we have Google Page Insights. So that's when and this is by Page Insights. This site uses Google. So you can type the URL of the page, then it will give you the dynamics, what or the metrics of how it goes. Let's go to w3schools.com. We want to check the dynamics of W3. And it could be our website, which we have developed, and we want to check and then make it faster. So I hit enter, it's running the analysis of that website. Okay. So reports from 4:38 p.m. March 22nd, which is today. Now, so it's largest contentful paint, interaction, next paint. All these are data that helps us. It says core vital assessment field. Okay.
failed that. And first time to byte 1.9, first contentful page. All of these things are useful data that you can help make your website faster. This URL, okay, so desktop. Desktop too has its own analysis. And we can go to maybe another website, say, so that's one way we can use these sites to check our speed, to check details, to make our websites faster. So let's say Cloudflare. You say Cloudflare is a CDN. Okay, so you can adopt it as a CDN when you need a CDN, a content delivery network. And I told you that content delivery network is helpful because once you post the file there, we have servers all over the world that can mirror your file. So whenever someone needs an item from your file, if they have a nearby server, they'll just reroute that request to that server so that it's closer to that person and the person is able to download stuff faster. So let's go to maybe Cloudflare. Want to go to their websites. And so Cloudflare Connect, Protect, Build everywhere. So this is an example. And they have a CDN. So you can start with Create, Protect, and Build. So you can look more into it. I told you that earlier, if you want to learn how any site is adopted or used, you can just say how to use Cloudflare. And Google will definitely bring you some videos which you can watch and then it makes your work faster. So easy step, how to set up Cloudflare, easy step, ultimate tutorial, how to use this. So people definitely do a lot of useful stuff online, and you can. And our purpose is not to learn how to or to teach how to use this, but to make mention of them so that you get to know that okay, these tools exist. When I need them, I can go and then spend time and master them. Okay. Um, And there is GT Metrics. That one you can also visit their website as well. There is Lighthouse, Google Lighthouse. You can visit their website as well. Let's check Lighthouse website. So Google Lighthouse. There's an open source automated tool for improving site performances. So that's an example of Lighthouse performance, the demos. And this, what we mean by extension is that when we say it's an extension, a browser extension, what happens is you can add it to your browser so that when you need it, you can access it. Okay. So this is for Chrome's web store. If I launch my Chrome, then I can install the web add. I can click this button, add to Chrome, and it will add to my browser, and I can use it. So it's a browser extension, and you can use it to optimize, you can see performance, accessibility, best practices, SEO. It will rate you for you to know, and sometimes it will give some insight. First contentful things, index speed, time to interactive, first CPU, meaningful. All these things, if there are issues with your website, you will get to know from here. Okay. So that's one thing with
The fourth thing is accessibility. Accessibility. So, for you to be able to please your users, it should be accessible to all. Okay, to be accessible to all. And by all, I mean you need to include people with disabilities. Okay, people who may not have all you think they have. Okay, so sometimes it's easy to assume that, oh, my website will see, people will see it this way, they'll click on this button, they'll do this. But if someone is colorblind, you have to design towards that person. If someone is visually impaired, they can't see, you have to design sound for that person. If someone is audibly impaired, then they can use sites, and you have to provide video thumbnails, video, what do I say? Video captions for that person so that they can read and follow along what is going on in that video. So it's important to provide things with your elements that allow for screen reader compatibility. So over here, we said use HTML for screen reader, use the semantics. Okay, so we can have head, nav is for navigation, button is for button. Don't use just anything. But when you stick to the semantics, then it's going to help a screen reader interpret them for the person who is maybe visually impaired and he can hear the readings of your website. And add alt text to images for visually impaired users. So for people who can't see well, alt text, alternative text is like it describes what the image is. So it will tell them maybe there's an image of a mountain in Sloan. Okay, that is, and this can be inserted in your HTML. Okay, can be inserted in your HTML. Then use proper color contrast and text background. This is for visually impaired, like people with what do I say? Colorblind people. Okay, not everyone is able to see the colors very well. And make sure the site is keyboard navigable. Okay, so not every site are you able to use keyboard to navigate through the elements. And then provide captions and transcripts. Like I said, captions are for people who are audibly impaired. Okay, so that at least as they watch the video, they'll see the captions and see what conversations are going on in the video. And transcript too, they can for audio and for video content. That also helps them. They can read as well. For example, is BBC. It follows the accessibility guidelines, and there are guidelines. There are guidelines for accessibility. Apple also uses semantic HTML, provides alternative text for images. Alt text is the alternative that the screen reader picks up and reads to the hearer if it can't find the image or if it's loading. And these are some tools that can help you make your site very accessible to all, okay? So that you don't miss out on people who cannot work with your content. It's important for me to talk about this guideline, web content accessibility guidelines, okay? So let's first go there and then take a look at the guideline. These are W3 schools. If you want to make your site more accessible, it has guidelines that it introduces. And who is it for? Translation. These are documentation that you can go through when you have time. Okay, and they help you kind of meet the standards. Okay, and it's useful in a way. So when you find time, you can quickly dash here and then say W3 schools, w3.org, and then you ask for standard guidelines for web accessibility, and you find it there.
Now, Wave is a popular tool that is used for um, checking if your site is accessible by all. So let's come to Wave. Okay, so that's Wave here. Wave or we enter your page address and tell whether the accessibility is this or that. So let's say let's go to a popular maybe website like ANN.com, a news website. So I was talking about contrast. Contrast is for the color blinding. It will do all of these assessments, and then it helps you identify. It gives you a summary of what is identified. And these things, they are for testing purpose. As you build the site, not everything may be correct, but as you pass them through some of these tools, you will detect the flaws, and this will help you improve on the code that you've shaped. So it's important that you get all of these. So I think it's taking some time to analyze it. We can go to preview and then look at other things and then come. So let's say we have Axe DevTools. It's a browser extension. I told you a browser extension is not like a software for your computer, but it's a software that you can plug in for your browser in a way. So you first have the browser, then you can decide to install an extension. That extension lives within the browser. When you uninstall the browser, that extension also goes. It lives within the browser, and you can access that extension when your browser is open. So it's not an independent software. It's a small piece of plugin sort of that allows you to access certain services. So I think this is what it concluded on. It found 23 errors, and then things that are worth responding to. 42 features were found to be working well, structural element area, all of these things, and it can give you more details that, okay, 5 missing alternative tests. So what I was talking about, the alternative test is for screen, like people who are maybe visually impaired, and their screen reader can read the alternative test and tell them what the image is about. Okay, so they can't see, but the screen reader can read alternative text, which has an input. So it found that 5 were missing. And then one form label. When we say a form label, a label that allows a form to be read, okay, that was also missing. And 6 empty form labels, 4 empty. So that lets suspicious alternative text, meaning that they weren't kind of what do I say? They don't correspond to the real details of the image. So these are, you see, the thing is, this is not to point the errors, but these are things that help you optimize. So they are not under straight obligation that you make your site this way, but to meet more users or to meet the needs of more users, it's best standard or it's best practice that you get some of these things corrected. Okay. And there are lots of popular websites that may not pass the site 100%, 100%. And sometimes it has to do with the speed of publishing. Okay. So for a site that is constantly generating stuff for news and items, sometimes some things go unattended, and then they end up losing out on certain users who may not be able to meet their expectations. So it's important. So that's what Wave found out, Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool. And it's not to point the errors of one website or the other. However, as a developer, this thing helps you to improve in the work you do. and Axe development. You can check that out as well. But we call this PA11Y and Pali. It looks like Pali, but we call it PA11Y. And it's an automated testing tool for checking compliance with these standards. Okay, the standards that I spoke to you about earlier, the web standards for doing that. And contrast checker is also a tool for checking the colors. Okay, so let's go to the contrast checker and then see how it works. And so in your free time, you can check out some of these tools. And whenever you are caught up somewhere and then you want to find out how it's used, you can always ask, how is this thing used? Okay, how is this thing used? And you'll be surprised. It will teach you how it's used. So the contracts checker web, so web accessibility in mind. So you can use this. So it says the contrast radio is this. If you are using this color, white background, and this, then you have a very good contrast. Okay. But if you are using a color that is lighter, as I slide here, you see my contrast ratio is going down. So if I use a foreground color against this white background color, the more whiter I get, the more my foreground merges into my background color. So my users will have a very tough time not seeing what I want. But the higher I go to other colors, then I can, what do I say? I can, uh, I can distinguish my foreground, which may be my text, for my background. Okay. So you can use the color picker to pick any color that you want to pick. So that's my foreground color. I said I want this color. Okay, I pick that color. And then I come here and then see my background color is this. So I have this color still writing well. If I pick this color, this blue color, so a lot that goes on. And let me explain what briefly, just for the sake of what goes on. What we mean by hex value is that in HTML we call something hexadecimal value. It's the 6-color code or a 6-color combination. So you can see these digits are 6 hex, a hexagon. So a 6-color combination that you can, sometimes they are made from numbers, other times too. So A to F, okay, we have A to F in terms of numbers, and with in terms of the alphabet, and here we can have okay, so we can have 0 to all of them, but in terms of the numbers for the alphabet, we have A to F. Okay, combination of A to F, and then so A, B, C, D, E, F. That's up to 1 to 6. A is the first letter, hexadecimal. So hex decimal. Hex is 6. Decimal is like 10. Okay, so 0 to 10. A to F represents 6. That's why we call it a hexadecimal combination. H to N. Then you can, the alpha value represents the level of lightness that comes with that particular color. Okay. When you add the alpha value, you see that more letters come to add up here. So it's important to use some of these tools to help you check. And there are also other tools that you can use for checking your contrast. Okay. Uh, So there are several tools which you can use to check the contrast of your website. And so all of these tools here helps you improve the accessibility so that you're accessible by all people. Okay. With this, we'll come to the end of the user experience. So over here, we spoke about 4 things that if you want your users to enjoy the experience and to find it very easy, and then to also make sure your websites are working, you need to meet these 4 things. One, your website has to be user friendly. That it should be easy to navigate and then enjoyable to use. 2, it needs to be functional. When we say functional, I mean that it works as expected. Okay, it works as expected. Then 3, it should load very quickly because the more it waits to load, that can also impact the experience of the user. You can move to even another website. If he clicks a page and it's not loading for a very long time, you can move to another competitive website that can offer him the same thing he's looking for on the website. Then 3, it has to be accessible. By accessible, you want to capture people, even people with disabilities, okay? So that your website is able to meet all of these things. So that's about the user experience for now, okay? The next thing is we'll look at the user interactivity. And by user interactivity, we are talking about how to make your site or the elements of your website engaging with the user. Okay. We're talking about how to make it engaging for the user. So I said that user interactivity refers to ways which users can engage and respond to a website. By responding, it's like they act because there is a need to act. Okay. Because there is a need to act. And it involves creating a dynamic, responsive, and engaging elements that allow users to interact with the content. So if your elements are popping up, if they are reacting to the experience or the interactions of the user will feel more engaged and would like to do more with them. Okay. So you would like to interact with content such as clicking of buttons, filling out forms, playing videos, because they respond to his interactions and dropping items. Okay. And the goal of interactivity is to make the user experience more engaging and intuitive. Okay. So that the experience in all can be enjoyable. So after you've done all of that, the best practices also make sure that your websites are engaging for the user. Okay, and there are ways you can achieve that, and there are also tools you can use to achieve that. And so in this user interactivity, I'll say lesson, we'll talk more about how to use some of these tools to make your website more engaging. Okay, let's continue to the web page. We said that examples of interactive websites that are considered to be very interactive, include Google Maps. Okay, Google Maps, Trello, and Netflix. Google Maps because the maps allow you to engage as you click, as you zoom. Maps, as you click, as you zoom, it responds to you. Okay, so that's what we call an interactive website. So I can play around with it. I can click around. I can zoom into it. And as I zoom, it gives me location. So let's say I'm in Accra now. And zoom into places. And as I zoom, it's responding, it's changing. Okay, so when that happens, when the user gives an input and your website responds to it or it changes to meet their current situation, then we say your website is very responsive. And Trello too can do something like that, allows you to organize your task by dragging things around. So maybe you can watch a video, see how it works. Watch a video to see how it works.
I'm trying to get something done, and then this happens.
Okay.
With the brand new Trello inbox, I'll take a breath and handle them all one by one.
Okay.
Forwarding this email to inbox, Atlassian Intelligence parse it and create a card with all the details. I can save this message in Slack, and same, Atlassian Intelligence can parse it and add it to my inbox. That hallway conversation about the marketing presentation being moved up to Friday can be added via Siri. Once I have it all in my inbox, the new Trello planner can help me find time to get it all done. Just like that, you get everything done without getting overwhelmed.
So you can sign up and then it allows you to move cards around, interact with it, and do a lot with it. So that's an example of a site that is very interactive. We also have Netflix, and we earlier went to Netflix to look at the interactivity. As you hover, the effects of browsing the content also speaks for itself. So Netflix. Okay. So go to my website. And when we say it's interactive, it means that when the user gets to a point, when he hovers on something, the site kind of responds to it. Okay. So is that trending now? Number 5, it's that one. It's still loading. Baby farm is trending, revelations. So as I hover around, you can see that it's responding to me. The images are responding. So these effects are what we term as interactive. So as the user navigates your website, the elements in the website don't stay static. They stay responsive to the user. And user interactivity tools. Some of these tools can be adapted. As we saw in the earlier tools, any of these tools, you can pick them to do certain things for you. And we say React is for building dynamic. And we spoke about React when we were doing earlier, when we were talking about web technologies. Okay. And it's a JavaScript library which you can use. That Vue.js is a framework, a JavaScript framework. All of these things you can use to enhance your interactivity on your website. And animation libraries can also be adapted. We have the GSAP, the GreenSock animation platform. I would advise you or I encourage you to visit all of these websites. Just type in the name, anime.js, GSAP. Just type in the name into Google and it will bring you the website. And that's why I've put their branding or logos here too, so that you won't miss your way with them. InVision is for prototyping. Figma tool is the same thing for prototyping. And they make your website interactive. Hotjar can also be used. Google Lighthouse can also be used for testing. Okay, after you are done testing the tool. So at the end of the day, these are tools, like I said, you don't have to know everything. You have to pick one of them which works with you and master it. And sometimes it does a lot of magic for you when you have mastery over a certain particular tool. Just pick one or two, use them very well, learn from the internet how to do this, how to do that. Google has now a lot of information. And so just to make mention of some of these JavaScript framework, animation libraries, prototyping tools, and testing tools, okay? We have Figma Vision for prototyping, we have Lighthouse, Hotjar for testing, we have animation for animation, we have GSAP, Anim.js, and for JavaScript frameworks, we have React and Vue. These are just a few, a lot out there, but if you master one of each, I think you are good to go. So he says that let's talk about best practices that can help you make your site interactive. He says use clear and responsive call to actions. By call to action, I mean in my earlier video, I said that call to action is when you want a user to respond to a proposal or something you said on the website. So after you've said everything, say buy now or subscribe or do this. You want them to act, you want them to engage or give us your email or something. Also, over here, ensure the bottom, the links and other interactive are visually distinct or easy to click and tap. Okay, they are visually distinct, that you separate them from all other content. Okay, so that the users can easily see them and click on them. And use descriptive labels. Sign up now, click here. That's instead of click here. So instead of saying sign up now, let the user know what they are really doing. Call to action. Let them know that they are signing up. Don't say click here. Okay. Click here. Then when they click, then you sign them up automatically. Has to make sure the CTAs are responsive and they work seamlessly across devices. By responsive, when maybe hovers over it, changes, the color changes or the button, for them to see that, oh, something is when it clicks, the button size or something changes, for them to see that they've interacted with the CTA. Example, a buy now button that changes color when hovered over or tapped. Okay. And the other thing to make it more interactive is provide instant feedback. Instant feedback. For example, give users immediate feedback when they interact with an element. For example, a button that changes color or click, or a loading spinner during submission. So when you are submitting a form, sometimes you click and you don't know what's happening in the background. But if it's loading, let a loading spinner show for the user to see, oh, things are working in the background, so I have to wait. And they can have that time to wait. And use animation and micro interactions to acknowledge user action. Okay. Example is a form that displays a check mark when it's filled correctly, and when you fill it wrongly, it displays a cross to show that this field hasn't been filled well. Okay, so it's worth implementing some of these things. You can also simplify your form and input fields. Okay? Use autofill. Autofill is like when I'm typing something, then it gives me suggestions on what it could possibly be. And input validation, clear error messages. When you say error messages, we talk about if the user is not typing an email correctly, be specific that your email doesn't have an @ or it doesn't have this, or the password needs to have that be more specific than just saying invalid password or wrong password. Then you know what they are missing. So have a clear error message, okay, or input validation. It makes your forms easier to complete, okay, and break long forms into smaller steps. So you can have multi-steps, like step 1, do this, categorize, take the details. Step 2, let them fill their bank information. Step 3, let them. So if the form is very long, then that makes it more convenient to fill. Then you can use placeholders and labels as guide users. Okay. So form labels are kind of they are displayed as suggestions for the field. So instead of if I say name, I can add a form label or a placeholder saying that first name followed by last name, so that the user knows that okay, it's a guide to them how they are supposed to provide their name. Then an example would be a sign-up form that highlights errors in real time and suggests correction. In real time means that as I'm typing, then it's giving me feedback. It's giving me feedback on what is going wrong and what is right. And we say implement interactive elements like sliders. Sliders are images that are moving, carousels, accordions. Accordions, sometimes you have a text that you don't want to display all of them because of the content, so you can put them in something that, or in an element that when you tap on it, it expands further below. It expands further. And some of them can expand to the right, some of them can expand below. Okay, expand further on that title or that section. So you can have several sections. When you tap on it, a text below shows up or content below shows up. And then use drop downs to make content more engaging and digestible. These best practices are what distinguishes the real developers from, say, the others who are just coding. Okay, so learning coding is a good skill to have, but to be able to design websites, to plan websites, and to be able to implement them, that makes users engaged. It's also another skill to have. And these are the best practices you need to have in mind. Okay. To ensure these elements are intuitive and all work together on mobile and desktop devices. Okay. For example, an image cursor that users can swipe and click through. Okay. It's very interactive. And it says enable keyboard and touch navigation. Okay. So that helps the user to just use your arrow keys to flip through the website, to use a tab key to move in between elements. Okay. By, for example, tabbing in a form that they can move through the form, filling just with the keyboard using the tab key. And optimize touch interaction for mobile. They have to be large and they have to be tappable with the finger, because some of the websites you have to go in and then zoom before you can point or tap the button you need to act, which is not the best. Doesn't make your site interactive. So we said an example here is a drop-down menu that can be navigated using the keyboard arrow keys, which is a very good thing. Most drop-down menus cannot be. Some of them cannot be. But if you're able to implement that, then it means that you have interaction online. And we say use animations and transitions sparingly. Okay. Add subtitle animation to guide users, provide feedback. And then, for example, a smooth transition when a modal opens. A modal is like a dialogue that has a darkened background. So I can play a video and then it opens in a modal. It grays out every other content on the page, or it darkens, or it overlays it with a dark layer, every other content on the web page, and only pops out the content I looked out for, whether it's a video I played, whether it's a button I click, whether it's some content it needs to show to me. It's lays off all other content with maybe a darkened layer and then shows me that content. That's a modal. So a smooth transition can give it some animation. Avoid excessive use of animation because that will distract or slow down the user. So an example will be to use a button that gently expands when hovered over. So animations can help. It adds up to the interactivity. And personalize the experience. Personalize the experience. Use cookies or user accounts to remember preferences and provide tailored content. So sometimes when you enter a website, they tell you, oh, for this particular, we would like to use cookies, or we like you to accept to store your preferences, so that the next time you come, they can serve you with that same experience again, which is a very interactive thing. offer interactive features like saved items, favorites, personalized recommendations, like the way we go to Amazon, and then if there was an item you wanted to purchase, but maybe at that point you don't have money in your bank account, you can save the item. And then later on, when you log on, you can just retrieve the saved items and continue with your transaction. Okay, so it's has the experience personalized. Okay. And an example is an e-commerce site that showed recently viewed products. Okay. And ensure accessibility. Accessibility, I have spoken about accessibility here earlier. Make interactive elements more accessible to users with disabilities, which is very, very important. A screen reader compatibility and a keyboard navigation, that helps, that adds up, because the screen reader helps for visually impaired people to hear through reading, okay? And the keyboard navigation also helps people to navigate through without maybe having to use the mouse all the time. Use area. Area is accessible rich internet applications, roles to and attributes for complex interaction. And you can open up what area is, and later on take a good look at it. Okay. Area. So it's part of the standard. W3 is like where you find internet standards. It's the organization that regulates internet standards. Okay. So area, so technical solutions, authorizing practices, versions. So all of these documentations are, we develop area. All of these documentations are available, and later on, when you have time, you can take a good look at them. So an example will be a modal dialog box that can be closed using the escape key, because we're talking about the use of keyboard or the keyboard navigation. So the escape key normally is supposed to close dialog boxes. So if you're able to do that, then that makes your site more interactive. Okay. Then the thing is optimize performance. We ensure that the interactive elements load quickly. It's very important. Time on the internet is very important, because sometimes users can't wait for your website to take a long while. So you have to make sure that the elements are loading quickly, your scripts, without delay. Use lazy loading for heavy interactive. I spoke about lazy loading. Okay, let's check out what lazy loading is. Lazy loading, I spoke about it when we're doing the Google YouTube example, but let's go to lazy loading, the JavaScript. So you see lazy loading React, lazy loading Angular. It can be implemented in several ways. So they are teaching us ways which we can implement some of these things. And so you can, when you have time, you can just come here and then take a look at it. Browser Stack is one of the tools we use to get started for free. So they are teaching how to implement lazy loading in React and test your React code. Browser Stack. So you see, there is a lot of tutorial. So you say lazy loading in React delays loading components until needed, reducing the initial load time and improving performance. Okay. So you can take some time and then make a read lazy loading and see how to implement it in some of your. And you see that video that only loads when the user clicks the play button. Okay. So for example, that's what YouTube has implemented, that, okay, well, once you're on their website, not until you are in the session, you see these thumbnails, not until you are the session, you need these thumbnails will be there, is what is loaded. Okay, so as you can see, these things have been loaded. But when I go down very quickly, you see that these things are loaded. So it's like when I come into session, then that particular item is loaded. When I come into session, then that particular item is loaded. That's what it waits until that that element is in view of the user before it fetches the thumbnails of it. And that's what we call lazy load, so that it doesn't have to load everything from top to bottom when actually I needed maybe a few top ones. Okay. It loads what the user needs or what's in view at any point in time. So that's about lazy loading. So we say a video that only loads when the user clicks play button. And the other thing is we can test interactivity across devices and browsers. So there are tools also for that. Okay, I told you that for all these tools like BrowserStack, we've seen BrowserStack. Okay, and you can use it for interactivity testing as well. All these tools, all you need to do is check out the name, go to their website, look at what they do. And from there, you can just pick and then say how to use BrowserStack to test for interactivity. And you are good to go. You find videos on how to do that. Click, watch them. Then you learn how the tool is used. Then you come and then implement. Okay. So this lesson is to kind of mention the tools that you can use for such purposes and also show them where they live and how you can leverage them when you need to. Okay. So that's it for, let's say, interactivity. Okay. So first we spoke about some tools which you can use to improve your user interactivity. And we spoke about examples of some interactive websites. And interestingly, user interactivity in short, it's IX. Okay, IX. So a field where people design user interactivity. They say user interactivity design or interactivity design is DIX. DIX. Sometimes you see people write an XID. And the X, sometimes they make it lower cap. So you have it being capital I, caps I, lower caps X, then capital D, like interactivity design. With this, we'll come to the end of a very important presentation, which is like understanding your users, the experience they have and the interactivity they have or they need to get. This, I'd like to conclude that this is the most important thing for a developer or a designer to understand. Understanding the web. You need to understand the web first because that's where you are going to define your files to live on. And you need to understand your website, which is made from your the technologies, you tools you have to build with. Okay. And we exposed much of them in earlier presentation. And the most important thing are your users. Remember that your users they are people, they are your clients, they are everything. So let's say someone sees your work online and he offers to give you a job with a company that, okay, well, come and build websites for our customers. In the company, you will be working with, let's say, the marketing manager who uses the website for his work. So a website is actually a brand touch point. When we say a brand touch point, one of the tools that exhibits the brand. So you have business cards, you have letterheads, you have corporate marks, you have t-shirts. All of these things have a way of portraying the brand or making the brand visible. The website is one of them. And apart from the local ones, that may be a corporate office. When you visit their corporate office, you see their branded cards, you see their branded walls, you see things that are locally there. Only people that live within that space or that engage that space can have access to that. For websites, people who are global, all around the world can access it. So it's a very important brand touch point that the marketing department takes very seriously. And the goal of the marketing department is to ensure that that business is competitive in their field. that business is very competitive in their field so that they can charge customers a premium for the work they deliver. So when you are doing a website for them, your first client will be maybe the marketing manager, or your first user will be the marketing manager. You have to build the site and then show it to him. He's your user and he's going to test it. Sometimes he'll test it with their tools and tell you, oh, this thing is going to work for us. This thing, it doesn't meet the goal. But what happens first is he will give you a design brief. A design brief is a document that tells you specifically what you want the website to achieve. Okay. The how you are going to build it depends on your creativity. He will leave that to you. But he will tell you what the marketing department are trying to, or they are trying to achieve as a team using the website. So they maybe to increase more sales, to get customers to experience our product online before they buy, to do this, to do that. With those objectives in mind, that's how you are going to construct your pages, your navigations to meet those needs. And he's your first client. So after it's done, you send it to him. He's your first user, and he has to experience it and look at his experience and then share his interactivity. So if you understand user experience very well, then the probability that you'll be in their good books is very high. If you understand the interactivity of a website too very well, then the probability that you are doing their good books is very high. And a good book means that you get promoted, you are taking, your work is taken seriously as something that the company can invest in and provide resources for you and move you up faster. That helps with your career as a web developer and a designer. On the other hand, when you are doing freelance jobs or when you are, let's say, looking out to work with clients as an independent practitioner, what happens is those people you work with can give you recommendations. Okay, so you have to take this thing, the experience, user experience and interactivity serious, because their experience, if they have a very good time or a good experience, trust me, they might give you recommendations to work with other competitors or work with other people, which brings you more income as a freelance developer. So it's important for you to nail some of these things very well. If I were you and I want to start a career in web development, the first thing is, from my experience, I don't think I need to learn code now. I need to understand the web, the internet, web browsers very well. I need to understand what technologies are available and for what uses. Okay, I don't need to know how to code now. Then I need to know user experience and user interactivity and sometimes user interfaces very well. Then after I'm done with that, then now I can start code, because these are the foundations and the fundamentals of web design. Once you get these things right, the truth is you have clients coming. So I wish you the best with completing the fundamentals of web design. In future videos, or maybe at the time you'll be watching this, I might have developed videos for some of the technology, the popular technologies, frameworks that we spoke about in web technologies, like React, like MongoDB for databases, like Laravel, like stuff, which can help you facilitate your web development. Okay, so I'll see you in other lessons.